Hey guys, welcome to the Salem Business Journal podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Peone, and I want to thank Collier Law and Compass Visuals for sponsoring the podcast. Appreciate you guys. And with me, I have
Aaron Stickney, SilverSphere Capital.
Yes, sir. Aaron, it's great to sit down and chat with you again.
Great to have me again, Jesse. I appreciate you taking the time and giving me the opportunity to speak.
Some of the clips online got a lot of fire behind them.
They did.
Yeah. Did you read any of the comments?
I read some. There was some support and some opposition.
Yeah.
I think the opposition was just lack of understanding.
Yeah.
Like I haven't asked for anything from the town, nor will I.
Yeah.
It was just more to help the town out. And then as far as the Canary is concerned, it's a project that we believe in. It's taken a stall, as everybody knows, but it's not dead, and we are committed to seeing it through.
Yeah.
Within the right time frame. The one question that I asked the current mayor and the mayor-elect is why should we invest close to $300 million in Salem? And neither one of them really had an answer. Which is troubling. At the same time, too, I'm committed to the people of Salem and the businesses of Salem.
Yeah.
And committed to seeing the Canary through. But I would ask the people and the businesses to step up, hold the politicians and the people in power accountable for some change, because what's been done isn't working. And the thing is, it's not just for, when I ask the question, why Salem? It's not just for the Canary. It's for any large retailer, any anchor tenant, anybody that's going to come into Salem. You need to have a brand. You need to have a PR story. You need to have something that says, this is why Salem is viable. And currently, that doesn't exist.
Yeah. Well, there's a lack of identity.
Exactly.
Yeah. And, I've been pitching this since, or last year. I talked to you. Remember when I told you about the music and murals?
Well, exactly.
I think that'd be a great one.
Yeah.
But, and then we could get giant signs. We could put a giant sign on I-5 saying, Salem, the city of music and murals. Right on Highway 22. Salem, the city of music and murals. And then you drive by on your way to the beach or from the beach, and you see murals on some of the buildings downtown, and then you're like, oh, maybe I should stop. You stop, grab a bite to eat or grab a drink on one of the bars, and then you hear live music playing in the alleyway. You hear live music in some of the local places, and there's a little bit of life.
Yeah. And that's what everybody wants.
That's what brings people.
You need to create a destination. You have to create a reason for people to come. And then businesses, retailers, anchor tenants.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about building more apartments, because right now, currently, there's more people leaving Salem than coming into Salem. That's a problem.
Is it really?
Yeah. And the homeless situation, all you have to do is walk by the park.
Yeah.
Or I was fortunate enough, the Dragon Boat Club asked me to come out and paddle with them.
Oh, did you do it?
I did it because
that's awesome.
It was amazing. And no joke. They gave me an extreme workout because I was paddling with them and
that's cool.
Harmony with them. And
yeah,
that is an incredible workout. But we paddled up the river, we paddled by the Canary, and we paddled along the waterfront.
Yeah.
And it was depressing to see the amount of homeless camps along the Riverway. It wasn't good.
Yeah.
And the problem's not getting better, it's getting worse.
Yeah.
And you ask the city officials, what are you doing? Well, we're doing this, we're doing that. But it's obvious that more needs to be done and not enough is being done, because the problem isn't decreasing, it's increasing.
Yes.
And if it continues on this path, no one's going to want to come to Salem.
Yep.
Because they're not going to feel safe. You're not going to have an anchor tenant that's going to bring in 1,000 employees when we're just homeless running rampant everywhere.
Yeah.
And then, to bring to, what we're going to talk about is the data center. The data center is one of the best things that could happen to Salem. And unfortunately, and I'll tell you why. Because AI is not going away. Data centers aren't going away.
Yeah.
And a problem with a lot of municipalities and the way they look at data centers is the fact that they're looking at a 10-year-old model. They're looking at the old model.
Yeah.
Back in the day, 10 years ago, yes. Did they consume a ton of water? Yes. Ton of power? Yes. Were they noisy? Yes. But technology has dramatically improved to where now there's no water consumption. They use a closed loop system. Mm-hmm. They also use submersible chips. They also use a glycol to cool the chips. So there's a number of different things where the municipalities aren't going to be, the water consumption is next to zero. And then on the power side, because our infrastructure is so inadequate and can't keep up with technology, most of the hyperscalers, we'll call them off-takers, the people that actually take the space, are switching to off-grid, or what we call in the industry behind-the-meter power. So they're using gas turbines, they're using hydrogen fuel cells, but they're basically self-sufficient. There's another company which we're using. It's called Helios.
Yeah, because you guys, SilverSphere Capital does build data.
Oh, we build data centers. We build multifamily data centers and cold storage.
Oh,
And this company that I just mentioned, Helios, they've come up with a technology that uses the building facade to actually generate power.
what does that even mean?
Oh, it's for another talk, because to break that down. But in essence, if you were to think of it, they have a technology that can be put into metal panels, can be put into the window facade if you're doing a high rise.
So like a lot of solar.
It's like solar, but solar on steroids. So I'll give you an example. We have 180,000, relatively small, square foot cold storage in Albertsford, BC that we're doing.
Yeah.
We're doing a off-grid power, behind-the-meter power plant. We're going to have to do 2.5 megawatts for the power plant. They did an analysis on the building. They can generate 1.5 megawatts per year off the existing building facade.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because that means that we only have to now come up with an additional 1 megawatt.
Yeah.
Which the savings on a project like that is about $15 million.
Well, what's crazy is I feel like that sort of technology should be used more often. What is it, like a newer technology?
It is a newer technology, but it's proven. It's not like one that's it's a beta test subject. We test it out. It's proven.
It's proven already.
It's proven. They did a data center somewhere towards the East Coast. I'm not sure the exact location, but they were able to generate 300 megawatts off of the building facade for that data center.
That's insane.
So you take that in conjunction with doing behind-the-meter power plants. There's no power consumption that the cities have to be worried about. And then from an architectural perspective, all the data center people have got on board with making it more aesthetically pleasing and making it look more like an office building and not like a data center. And then as far as the noise, which is another issue, the way the new technology is and the way that the CPUs and everything work, it generates next to no noise. And then they've also insulated the building. So if you think about a sound studio, you could have, a band going off in a sound studio, but on the outside, you don't hear anything.
Yeah.
So they've applied that technology to data centers as well. So there's all these new things, which is the new model that municipalities and cities like Salem and the people of Salem need to take into consideration and realize, hey, this particular one is a $5 billion project.
Yep.
What I would say is don't give them any tax benefits. Charge them full tax.
Yeah.
The revenue for the city of Salem off of that one building would be tremendous.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the data center people don't care. They don't want tax incentives. They probably won't even ask for it. And a problem that a lot of municipalities are making where they do exist is that they're just offering it to them because they want them to come in.
Yeah, without waiting.
Without waiting, yeah. Because they don't care. Right now, all they want to do is speed to market.
Yeah.
They want to build their data center. They want to get it up and running. And something like that for Salem would be something that would dramatically change the revenue, would bring in, that's an anchor tenant. It would bring in additional businesses. There's just so many things that can springboard off of that one building that would benefit Salem. There's no ecological or environmental hazards that you have to worry about. We talked about the water, we talked about the power.
Yeah.
The power has, next to zero emissions, zero carbon footprint. So environmentally, you don't have to worry about them killing frogs or whatever else the environmentalists are worried about. It's not going to happen. And I think it's more about educating people to know what the current model is and not just taking an old model or something they read online, or, educate yourself and understand exactly what you're talking about before you say, I don't want it.
Well, it reminds me kind of nuclear power. So when people think nuclear, what they think of is the 1960s, 1950s, like Hiroshima, right?
Yeah.
Or
3 Mile Islands on the East Coast.
Yeah. No, stuff like, because it used to be bad.
Yeah.
And when it was bad, it was very bad. which is completely true, right? That's a fair concern to be like, okay, what model, how are we doing this?
Yeah.
But the way that nuclear operates now, I mean, I believe most of France.
And that's another thing too, is that the behind the meter, it's not going to happen until 2028, 2032, but there's mini power cells that are coming out that are nuclear that could be used to power the data centers
Yeah.
or to power towns, etc.
Yeah.
And take care of, the deficiency in our infrastructure.
Yeah.
And the way that they are now, they're super, super safe. And there's fusion and there's fission. Two different things. One kind of deteriorates and the other one doesn't.
Yeah.
And they've actually combined the two so they like counteract each other. I don't know the exact technical terms of it, but they counteract each other.
Well, to the best of my knowledge, I don't think we figured out fusion yet, because nuclear fission is breaking the cells apart.
Right.
We feel fusion is like banging them together.
We have it.
Oh, we have
it.
Oh,
There's
okay.
actually a company in Seattle that makes these.
Wow.
Swinnerton, who's actually going to be my CM on the Canary project.
Wow.
When it kicks off.
Well, I'd love to interview him. That'd be
I can set that up.
Yeah.
There's a plant in Seattle that is doing this and has done it, and they're in production. And again, they're not going to come online till 2028.
Yeah.
But they have one that's actually working.
Wow. That's a game changer.
Yeah.
Well, because the amount of energy produced, I don't remember the exact numbers. It's been a minute. In college for my undergrad, I was choosing between economics and physics because I just nerd out on that stuff.
Oh, fantastic.
And then I just went economics because I don't like being told what to do. And the whole scientific method's like, which I don't mind doing. It's just if I'm picking something to do for a living,
you want to be more creative.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So France.
So there's 69, almost 70% dependent on nuclear power.
Yeah.
With no issues. So there you go.
Yeah. And whenever you heard about nuclear explosions and
nothing, man, there's a case study right there.
Yeah, exactly. And so like, if we really just took the time to really harness that, I mean, our dependency on a lot of these, like coal and all
oil.
And oil and coal,
even
like
gas,
a lot of it would go away because nuclear is safe now.
Yeah. Once it runs, it'll literally almost run forever.
Yes. And so like, that would solve a lot of our energy problems there. Right. And
100%.
Yeah. But on the data center, since, we already kind of went there, I have quite a few questions in this.
Fire away.
And so let's just hit them kind of one at a time.
Okay.
The first being the power. Right. So one of the things that is even a concern with me is the power grid. Now, I know you were saying that there was a lot of places have off-grid power, their own power supply, but a lot of them also don't. And so like, for example, a lot of the ones that we have in Oregon are located in like Harrisburg or Hermiston. And
Hillsborough too has...
Hillsborough and Hermiston, I think, are the two spots that have a bunch. And to the best of my knowledge, a lot of them do take power out of the power grid. Now they pay for it, right? And that's a lot of the pushback you'll get is, well, they are paying for it just like a regular.
But they consume so much that eventually it does increase the cost for everybody else around.
Exactly, because of supply and demand. There's less supply, and so now we're all paying and fighting over the same amount.
And what's happened is that the hyperscalers, which are the big ones, and the tier one off-takers have realized this, and now to make the project's more viable, and it's actually better for them because it's speed to market. They're going with behind the meter power.
Yeah.
And I believe I read an article on the one that's being proposed in Oregon. They've actually said they want to do behind the meter power.
The one in Salem?
Yeah, Salem. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sorry. Yeah. The one in Salem. Is that they want to do behind the meter power.
Well, and this is why it's important to educate it's important for our city leaders to educate themselves.
Right.
Because knowing to ask that question is important.
Right.
Instead of just saying no, we could ask the question of, okay, well, here are the main issues.
Yeah.
Are you going to do that? Are you going to have your own power? Because if they're not taking from our power supply, right, it kind of takes that issue off.
And here's the flip side of that too. If they don't use, let's say they've got 20 megawatts of power, which would be small for a data center, but just as an example, and they're not using all of that and they're tied into the grid, that power that they're not using is going to get fed back in. Now, granted, they're going to get paid for it.
Yeah.
But then the city, as far as supply and demand, the city is now getting additional power.
Yep. Which makes it cheaper for everybody.
Right. And then if they're using a hydrogen fuel cell there's a number of different behind the meter systems. A hydrogen fuel cell will produce as a byproduct distilled water.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Like on 1 gig, it produces 62,000 gallons per hour.
That is a lot.
Which then could be given back to the city, could be used for whatever. And again, they're not consuming the water, so they don't really need it. It's just an extra byproduct that could be used for something else, which is then a benefit to the city.
Interesting. So does that kind of work like with fracking or getting natural gas? A lot of the other gases that come out that aren't being used, they are then repackaged and resold.
Exactly. Exactly the same thing. This byproduct would be distilled water.
Well, what are the other byproducts? Are they?
That I don't know. I just know the water is the one thing that everybody's focused on. So I did research on that.
Interesting.
And on the hydrogen fuel cells, the byproduct is distilled water.
Yeah,
that can be used.
And where are they getting? Are they sucking out of the air? Where are they?
Oh, no, because it's a hydrogen. So the hydrogen, the byproduct is water.
Oh.
So H2O.
Oh, so by sucking, they take the hydrogen out of the air.
And they do it, yeah. And then the conversion
is
like water. Like if you saw the movie The Martian?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. So he used hydrogen to make water to then feed the potato plants that he had.
Yeah.
And he was on Mars.
Okay.
Very similar to that. So you have this fuel cell that's producing power through hydrogen. And then the byproduct is H2O.
Sounds like a great problem to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now we talked about power. Is there anything else on power you think that we should touch on?
No, I think the power is self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Where they can't connect to the grid if there's not a surplus in supply, which is basically most of the United States.
Yeah.
They're going with behind the meter power.
Well, because before they weren't worried about it, right?
No.
It was kind of the Wild West.
Yeah.
And now we're able to catch on to things a lot quicker than we used to be.
Yeah.
So for example, the time it took us to get nuclear from where it was dangerous to where now it's clean and power 70% of France, that time span has grown so much shorter with technology. So with data centers, coming out, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago are way different than the ones today.
100%.
Yeah.
The technology, the way the chips are, the noise, we talked about noise a little bit, is drastically reduced compared to the 10-year-old model.
Yeah.
They're not consuming the water because they're either using submersible chips.
Yeah. So with the water, explain this. Okay. 2 things about that. One is I have heard about the closed water system, which I do closed loop system, which I do know the Salem one proposed, which means they wouldn't be taking water out of a river. Because what was happening, right? And here's the big concern, right? Is you take water out of a river or our water source or from underground. In this podcast that I was listening to this morning, Aaron Brockovich was asking Tucker Carlson about, they were talking about data centers. And she mentioned that she thinks that they're doing a water grab. Like they're trying to grab and take all the water so then there's scarcity for everybody else and then they can sell it. That was kind of the big idea.
Yeah, no.
And so what was happening with original data centers was they would take water from the river or from underground, suck it all up, and then spew it out with chemicals inside of it because they needed the chemicals in it to help cool the system. That's my understanding. Is that for the original?
To a certain extent, yes.
Yeah. But
now they don't do that. They use a closed loop system, or which is even better, they use submersible chips.
No, what is it?
In it. So the whole reason that you have to have the cooling is because the processors, the chips get so hot, you have to keep them cool. If you don't keep them cool, you have mission critical and the whole system will shut down.
Yeah.
So you have to keep them cool. So they use a closed loop system, which basically means you have a coolant inside a tube that just keeps getting recirculated and cools the chips. In addition to that, they take the chips and they submerge them in some type of solution that acts as a cooling agent to then cool them further. And then there's other things they do with glycol that cools them further. The point being is that at the end of the day, there's next to zero water consumption. You got to fill it. If you have the closed loop system, you've got to fill it. Yeah. Once it's sealed and that's it. It's not this constant thing. And there's nothing being put back into the water that's harmful. There's no environmental issues. It's pretty much all sanctioned off from a cooling perspective.
Okay. Well, it kind of solves the water problem.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. There really isn't a water problem going forward.
Yeah.
With the new technology and the new systems, it's not like the old days, like you had mentioned.
Yeah.
They don't do that anymore. There's zero water consumption. And then also because they're not they're not discharging anything back into the soil or anything else, there's no environmental issues because they're not putting that water that was used back into the soil,
Yeah.
which then had chemicals in it.
Yeah. Now it's the building.
Now it's just a building.
Yeah.
It's just a building that runs like any other building, has a cooling system.
Yeah.
This cooling system is specific towards the chips, but there's no byproduct that's going to be harmful to the environment.
Interesting. Now the next one, of course, this is the next of the big ones, is noise. So we talked about that a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And so let's talk about what used to happen versus
what used to happen is, I'll put it in perspective. You go back and you think about computers 10 years ago,
yeah,
compared to computers now.
Yeah,
they're drastically different.
Very different. Yeah.
Okay, they're smaller, they're more condensed. It's the same thing with the noise. The older models made noise.
Mm-hmm.
Newer models have evolved. There's not so much noise.
Mm-hmm.
And then in addition to that, they use sound attenuation walls and things for that.
Yeah.
So that the sound's contained like a sound room.
Yeah.
So if you were to have a band in a room and you were doing a recording session, the outside world doesn't hear what's going on.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with these. So from a sound perspective, there is no issue anymore. Did there used to be? Yes. But there used to be a lot of issues. There used to be water, power, noise.
Yep.
Now the new model, those have gone away.
Well, that's good to hear. Now the question is to ask them and make sure, hey, with your power system, what's your plan? Water system, what's your plan? Sound, what's your plan? And then those seem like better questions to ask rather than just throwing a fit and saying, no, we don't want you.
Yeah.
And then making sure that they stick to it. Right. I mean, I think that seems fair.
And that through the approval process,
yeah,
that's something that they could do.
Yeah.
From a zoning perspective, the zoning's allowed. So there's not really, people can jump up and down
mm-hmm.
and say, no, we don't want it. But from a zoning perspective, if it's allowed, there's not really much that anyone can do about it.
Yeah.
From the building perspective and getting a building permit and approval, there are conditions that the city can put in place that discusses water, power, noise, all things that, fall under a different ordinance
for sure
that, they could easily put in place to make sure that they do what they say they're going to do.
Yeah. And honestly, as I'm thinking about it, the location that this is going to be in is in Southeast Salem, kind of near Corbin or the prison.
Is that over by the airport?
I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah. So there's a couple houses.
But the thing is that there isn't a noise issue.
Yeah.
And then also from an architectural perspective, if there were to be a residential community or something built in the future, the way the architecture is now, and this is also something that the town can control, is what does it look like architecturally and aesthetically? Most of the hyperscalers and the data centers are switching to where it looks like a really nice office building.
Yeah.
And again, using the technology that I mentioned before, the Helios system, they're using the facade to generate additional power.
Yeah.
And then it looks fantastic. I mean, even the one Kevin Leary's doing now is the renderings look outstanding.
I did look at that. It looks pretty crazy.
Yeah, it looks like a really plush office building.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, to be completely honest, I mean, a lot of the buildings out there aren't really lookers, right? I mean, we have the big Amazon warehouse building. It's all right.
No, but to the point, if that was a concern,
yeah,
there's a way to remedy it,
to make it better.
And to make it just architecturally aesthetic and pleasing to the surrounding people.
Yeah. Well, then what are the other concerns people have? Right? Is they were talking about jobs, and what I find interesting about that one is, what else do we have there? I mean, do we have any other companies banging at our door trying to go take that property and move in?
No.
Really. And
look at Salem as a whole right now. You have Macy's sitting vacant for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
You have more people moving out than moving in. Mm-hmm. You have no anchor tenants whatsoever.
Yeah.
And there's no plan by the city to go out and get them.
Yeah.
Which is something that I've talked to them about, is that you have to, again, back to why Salem.
Yeah.
Have a statement, have a PR campaign. Don't wait for people to come to Salem. Go find them. Go reach out. And this is an example. If you bring in a big data center, other people will follow. They'll come in. So this is one of those points where Salem, if they make the right choice and they approve this,
mm-hmm.
it's going to start opening doors for other large companies to say, Salem's viable.
Yeah.
Salem, we could do something there.
Yeah. Well, not just that, but I think, I mean, it was talking about, in the article that we did on my website about it, we had an interview with the head of marketing at their company. And what was interesting is, they said it would create a lot of times with data centers, you hear about thousands of jobs being made. And a lot of that's just the construction, right? But the long-term jobs are 75, which is that a ton? No, it's not like a ton, but that's 74 and 5 more jobs than we had. And that's, if we say no, we have 0 more jobs. So it's kind of like,
Well, it's not only that, it's like getting back to the tax revenue, and don't give them tax abatements.
yeah,
Let them pay full price for tax.
yeah,
The amount of money that you would generate in revenues for the city off of that one building
yeah.
is worth how many jobs?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Well, and not just that, but it's like in a city where we're having budget problems, you don't really have a lot of wiggle room, to be saying no to opportunity.
No.
Especially, I totally get it if there was issues with power, the water, or the noise. Which actually, I didn't know about the power thing that you talked about, which is even good because I'm pretty up to date on a lot of stuff. And so, if we don't have issues with power, if we don't have issues with water, we don't have issues with noise, why would we say no to that?
That's a very good question.
And here's another thing, another added bonus, right? I mean, I think it would be kind of cool if I was a student here in Salem Kaiser or one of the surrounding areas to be able to go learn about data centers at a data center. I don't know if they'd be willing to do that, but I think it'd be kind of cool to have one there.
I'm sure knowing big businesses like this, that they would have an intern program where they would do something, especially with the surrounding
Yeah.
Colleges. So you have Western, you have the other colleges around the area.
Yeah.
They would probably most likely do that. That's pretty common.
Yeah. It seems like it'd be a cool learning opportunity. Like, I would love to go see it. Like, if we're talking about the submersible chips, that would be a really cool thing to go see.
Right.
And like figure out how it works.
Well, and the whole cooling structure in general, you have basically with the data centers, you have hot aisles and cold aisles. And what you want to do is you want to bring in the hot and then take it out through the cold, cool the chips, and kind of have this whole, like, if you think about it, it's like an internal weather system.
Yeah.
And you want to, keep the chips cool. But above and beyond that, it's just having the data center here as an anchor tenant is going to open the doors to have other people look at Salem and say, we should consider this. And the thing is, AI is not going away.
Yes.
Even if, people are scared of it. And I guess that's another thing too, where it's lack of information. We're either for it or we're going to have to be against it. But if we're against it, we're missing out on opportunities because somebody else is going to do it. And I think Salem right now, this is one of the best things that they could say yes to.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I would agree with you on that. To be honest, like before we were talking about this, I wasn't quite sure. I knew from a business, I was kind of leaning for it. But if there were issues with the water, power, and noise, then those are concerns enough to have discussion.
Or environmental issues. Like if they were discharging water that had chemicals in it, I'd be whole ideal about it. It'd be like, no, 100% don't want to do that.
Yes.
But that's not the case.
Yeah. But for like a general person, in town who doesn't, live their life, like learning about this kind of stuff, they just, go to work, take their kids home, live a normal life. They don't know about these things. Right. And so for them, they're like, we're bringing in a data center that's going to ruin our water, suck up our power. Like that sounds crazy. Why would you allow that in?
Right.
That sounds like big, evil, top hat capitalism coming in
100%
with a monocle. I would try to tell us.
Agree 100%.
Yeah.
But it's not the case. And that's the thing is the perception. People just need to be educated or informed on what the current model is and not what it used to be.
Yeah. That's interesting. Well, how have you seen now with the way the model currently is, as opposed to what it used to be, when you guys are building data centers, have you found that to be a problem, or have you found that people are pretty receptive once they're educated on it?
Depends on the area.
Yeah.
The country right now is pretty divided on the data center proposition. And a lot of it, again, has to do with everybody relating to the old model, not the new model.
Mm-hmm.
Once they realize, again, that there's not a power issue, there's not a water issue, there's not an environmental contamination issue, then they get on board and realize, okay, this is actually good. And then when you throw in the fact that, listen, don't give them tax abatements, just have them pay full tax, then especially in towns that need it, then they get on board. Lapine's another example. Lapine is opposing a data center that's going in there.
Mhm.
And out of all the cities in Oregon, Lapine could really use it
Yeah.
because there's really nothing there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, they, again, same thing.
Weekly tax revenues are things that they could get, but it's getting that, it's being informed. It's having information of what's happening now,
Yeah.
not what happened before.
Well, and to be honest, I mean, if you're thinking from a city leadership perspective or from a regular community member's perspective, like someone who's not in this type of stuff day to day, I mean, what this really does is gives us the right questions to ask.
Oh, 100%.
Because it is possible while while your company, right, likes to use these new technologies, and just from getting to know you, right, I know that you care a lot about the communities that you guys work in, and you genuinely want people to do well, is kind of what I've gathered.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then it's pretty easy to, believe that you're probably, going to do nothing but good when you go into communities. But there are a lot of people who like to take the shortcuts.
There are. And that's why you need to ask the questions.
Yes, there are top hat capitalists with their monocles on, and they're just trying to make a quick buck. And so because of that, it's important to be able to have these are valid concerns.
Yep.
And they're valid things to ask. And so I just think I think you're right. I think we need to be able to ask the right questions.
You do. And then if they give the right responses, then, instead of just saying no,
Yeah.
blanket statement no,
Yeah.
just ask the questions. And I think that applies to just about anything, especially in business, is just ask the questions, be informed, and then see what they have to say, and then hold them accountable. And there's ways to do that through the different approval processes that are in place when you're building a building.
Yeah. Makes sense to me.
Yeah, me too.
Well, that's most of the questions I had about the data centers.
All right. Well, that's awesome.
Is there any other issues? Any other drama with them?
No, not really. I mean, I can
Make up some.
No, that's pretty much it. And again, just to go back to the Canary, we're 100% committed to seeing that through.
Yeah.
Well,
let's talk about that. So,
okay.
Data center aside, right? Like a lot of the benefit of that, right, is going to be on top of it being there and creating a couple jobs. Like the tax revenue, I think, is the biggest piece that's going to be helpful to the city.
Yeah.
And having, a helpful city is something that, I'm committed to. I know it seems like you're committed to.
100%.
And a lot of our business community really wants to see that. And one thing that I think before we go, into the Canary project that I want to touch on is when we look at our community, most of the really good things that have been happening or have been done by the business community, which like the community does a lot of great things as a whole, we really do. But if we really look at things that have been making an impact, the Forge is a great example of that, right? That was a couple of business minds who decided, hey, let's make something really cool and revitalize downtown. And then they did it. And now people love it, right? It's a great investment, And so I think that a lot of times, business owners can get viewed as, the monocle top hat guys. But really what that is, that's local people in town who want Salem to be better and to grow and be the best version of ourselves that we could be. Be like Vancouver, not like Portland, And
But to say right now, and I'll use this as an example.
Yeah.
Portland's homeless situation isn't as bad as Salem's.
I've noticed that. Actually, yeah, I've been going to Portland. I go to Portland and Vancouver quite often just because
they've been
date.
Yeah, they've been making an effort. And one thing I would say, I mean, we're committed to doing the Canary. The Canary will work out.
Yeah.
My question, and I want everybody in the public to know this, is I support the people of Salem and the businesses 100%. My outcry or call to action relates to the people in power. And
like, are you meaning like people in government roles?
Yeah. The city council,
the Senate,
current mayor, mayor-elect.
Yeah.
Everybody that's in power that actually makes the decisions for change needs to be held accountable. So I'm calling on the people of Salem to hold your people that represent you accountable, because what they're doing isn't working.
Yeah. Well,
the homeless situation is getting worse, and we're investing $300 million into just the Canary project between phase 1 and phase 2. And I would like to hear an answer on why Salem. I know why we chose Salem, because it shows huge potential and the people want change. The businesses, as you said, are rallied to make change.
Yeah.
Our government should step up and do a better job.
Well, and what I hear you saying, right, is I want to make sure I really clarify that. When you said why Salem, you're not coming in, why Salem, like Amazon did, right? When they asked a bunch of cities, why should I go there? Asking for tax incentives.
No, we haven't asked for anything. Don't want anything.
Yeah.
I did the white paper, didn't ask for anything.
Yeah.
Not looking for any.
Well, I want to make that, I want to make that clear.
Yeah, no. And everybody needs to know that.
Yeah.
We haven't asked for anything. I did the white paper out of just, I wanted to see change.
Yeah.
And I figured someone needs to do this. We have the technology.
How's the white paper been received? Has anybody?
It's been received fairly well.
Yeah.
But it took me applying pressure to actually get a meeting, to actually go over it. It took me saying the Canary might not happen. And then when I asked the question, why Salem? Then I got a meeting. Then I got more interest. Then, the city took notice. Yeah. And it's like, no one should have to do that or use the leverage to do that. But at the same time, it is a huge business decision. It's $300 million. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And why do we want to put it into a city whose political powers to be are not doing a good enough job to affect change?
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is the homeless problem is beyond out of control.
Yeah.
And then there's a whole bunch of underutilized assets, because one thing I always hear is, well, we don't have enough money for that. We don't have the resources for this. You do, you're just not using them yet.
Yeah.
And that's why I came up with the white paper. And again, it's for everybody in the public to know, didn't ask for anything, not looking for tax incentives, not looking for tax abatements, not looking for grants. I don't want any money from the city.
To be honest, it might be the first time I've heard this.
Yeah, looking.
Well, because everyone seems to be wanting all different.
No. What we want to do is see the city do better. If the city does better, the city uses its underutilized assets.
Yeah.
So that they don't have to increase taxes. They don't have to have bonds. They don't have to have a bunch of other things. Maybe they even decrease taxes. Wouldn't that be a thing? Based on using their current assets, that's better for everybody. And then as a developer, that's better for us. We don't need the tax abatements because
the city's doing well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, and if the city does well, we all do well. Like everyone wins.
It's an ecosystem.
Yeah.
Which is our first interview. That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
But it takes public and private working together. Private's ready on our side. And I think I can speak for a few other developers that I've become close with in Salem. They want the same thing too. We're ready to step up. We need the public sector. Public meaning the politicians, city council, etc. We need them to step up and do something to affect change, so that we can work together to turn Salem around. Because it's going to take two hands washing them together to wash the face to get the whole thing done.
Well, I feel like a lot of times amongst like public officials, right? A lot of business owners. That's why I said that before about how a lot of the change, good, positive change that we've seen in this town, have been by business owners,
by the private sector.
Yeah. And a lot of times they get demonized, by a lot of our elected officials, especially locally. I've seen it a bunch.
I've seen it too. And talking to people in the town, talking to businesses, I would call what the current powers to be have is the Ostrich syndrome.
What is that?
They stick their head in the sand.
Oh, I should have.
Okay. Yeah. They stick their head in the sand.
Yeah.
They're fine with the status quo. They want to do a couple little things to make it look like they're doing something, but nothing ever changes.
Well, one great example of this is, right, we just had the Ironman here in Salem, which is a big deal for us.
It was huge.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's great for everyone involved. Like it's a really cool event because it's healthy. It's people running, swimming, biking. It's a great economic benefit to the town. And what do? We clean up under the bridges for 2 days. And then the next day people start moving back under.
Yeah.
So
why can't it be every day?
Yes. So like, it's just like when you go visit a school. A school's a great example, right? So a common practice amongst schools, right, is it should always be ready for a principal or the superintendent or a school board member to come by, right? I mean, nothing's ever going to be perfect, right? We're not going to be perfect. Like when I would go visit schools, like I didn't care, right? I just cared that the teachers were doing well and kids were doing well. I'm pretty low maintenance. But I think that like whether it's a business, you should always be ready for a secret shopper. Whether, if you're an adult foster home place, you should always be ready for someone to come give it to them.
Unannounced visit.
Yes. And so our city should be ready for these unannounced visits.
100%.
Right. And if we're not ready for unannounced visits, if we have to get ready, that says a lot about the way that we're running things. And that means that we know it's not good because we're having to tidy up the room and tidy up the place in order for someone to come visit.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
And you see that, like you drive by the park and it looks like something out of a apocalyptic movie.
Yeah.
You take, like I said, I went with the Dragon Boat people. They gave me a workout. So they're no joke.
No, I've seen them out there.
And and shout out to the Dragon Boat ladies. They are amazing.
Yeah.
It was an incredible workout. But again, the homeless encampments along the river, it was depressing.
Yeah.
So it's like we collectively, all of us, if we want to see Salem do better, we have to do better collectively.
I think that the homeless problem is, I think, one of the biggest issues of our time, and especially in our area. And it's something that, when I go, speak to some of these elected officials, I'll share with them, just so you know, like, I'm pretty in touch with a lot of the business community with what I do. Here's the number one concern. And then it's always, well, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to, like, it's either what are we going to do about it, or where are we going to put them? Where are the beds going to be?
Or this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
And like, they want a pat on the back, and it's like, okay, but that's not enough.
It's not working.
Because it's not working. Yeah. And it hasn't worked for the past 5, maybe even 8 years.
Yeah.
And it's only getting worse. At what point do you draw that line in the sand and say enough's enough?
Yep.
Because it's just got to the point. I mean, does the city have to go completely broke? Everybody has to move out before someone in power takes notice and says, this problem is getting out of control? Because that's where it's at now. It's out of control.
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, I mean, I did a podcast, the other day, and Mike, we were having a similar conversation about the homeless problem. It wasn't about the homeless problem. It was about schools, public schools. And this one's probably not going to air for like another week or so, just because, this one's very relevant to what's happening tonight with the city council meeting. But then I was with Colin Willis, a commissioner, and we were talking about education. And, in the podcast when we were talking about it, I was like, I don't know if it's going to get better anytime soon, which sounds kind of pessimistic, but like, I'm a pretty optimistic person for the most part. But the thing is, like, the way that I view it is, it's kind of like if you have, you have to want to be better, and you have to want to do better. And to be honest, I'm not sure if a lot of our elected leaders are ready. I don't think that, which also shows as a community, right? Because we elected them. So it's like, as a community, are we ready to make the changes that we need to make to get better? Or do we want to be like the guy, like when someone has an addiction, like a drug addiction, alcohol addiction, you can tell them once or twice, like, this isn't good for you. We love you. We don't want to see you hurt. We want to get better. There's when you're not the one addicted, it's very clear what they need to do to get better, but they don't see it until they're ready, until they want it. And as a community, like, I don't know if we're ready. I mean, I hope we are, and I hope we can be. I know that we can be. It's just,
I think the people of the city of Salem are ready. I think the business owners of the city of Salem are more than ready.
Yeah.
I think our people in power, again, need to pull their heads out of the sand. Yeah. For lack of a better way of saying it.
Well, we elected.
I know. And maybe we need to reelect new people that are committed to change. Because what's currently happening isn't working, and it's getting worse.
Yeah.
And this is going to come to it's how far does the city of Salem need to sink into depression before people realize that something's not working?
Yeah. Well, it's very clear that money's tight, right? It's very obvious. Everyone in town knows it. While the news might tell us, oh, everything's great, everything's fine, it doesn't feel that fine.
No. And the thing is that a lot of people have hopium.
What is that?
Hopium. Hopium is living on hope that hasn't really happened. I call it hopium. So it's thinking, oh no, things are going to get better. They're going to get better.
Yes.
But not doing anything to change to make them better.
Yes. And see, I very much agree with you on that. I like that term.
I call it hopium.
Yeah. Well, because it's very important to be optimistic and believe that you can be better. And I do. But at the same time, if you're not, just like with your own personal growth, right? It's good to be self-confident. Yeah. Right. But then that becomes arrogance if there's not traction. Right. Like if I'm,
or execution.
yeah, if I think great about myself, it's good to think great about myself. But if I'm not taking actions in my life to make myself better, then it's just ego at that point, right?
Yeah.
And so it's really good to think highly about Salem. I think highly about Salem. I think we have great potential.
I think that you have an extraordinary amount of potential,
Yeah.
but there needs to be a plan. And then that plan needs to be executed. Because what's a plan that's not executed? It's just a dream.
It's just a pipe dream.
That's it. So unless you execute the plan, it's never going to happen.
Yes, and Salem does have a lot of great things going for it, right? But we also have some problems. Just like with my own personal growth, yours or hers, anybody's,
Yep.
is, there's also areas of improvement, right?
There's always something that each one of us can be better at. You're never going to be at 100% in anything.
Yeah.
There's always room for an improvement, no matter what you do, how long you've been doing it,
Yeah.
etc. And it's just admitting that to yourself that
Yes.
there's room for improvement. Because once you think you know everything, you're putting yourself in a really bad position.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you are. So just like, with personal growth for each individual person, Salem has a lot of really good things about it. And there's things I love about this town. Otherwise I wouldn't be living here. But there's also things that we could work on to become better. And there's things that we need to be working on before things get really bad. And right now I feel like we're kind of at a fork in the road,
I think you're at the really bad part already.
Yeah.
It's a matter of, are you going to let it get worse?
Yeah.
I think, and that's the question. And that's the question that everybody should be asking their elected officials. How bad are you going to let this go before you're willing to commit to change?
Yeah. One is also, not to place it all on them, right? Because, them doing well, like in order for them to do it, they need the business community to be willing to work with you. They need the general population to be willing to work with them. But here's the thing. We are willing to work with you.
That's the thing. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
That everybody I've talked to, the general public, are willing.
Yeah.
The private sector, businesses, developers, we're willing.
Yeah.
So I really think it falls on the elected officials.
Yeah.
Develop a plan, execute the plan, do something to change, and don't just, don't pussyfoot around it.
Yeah.
Be realistic.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the problem, is that they're not realistic with how bad the problem is.
Yeah.
And not committed to wanting to change it. They do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, get the pat on the back, but nothing changes.
Well, you know what? Like if you can't see that, and if you're not willing to help make things better, get out of the way. Let someone else do it. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's not about you.
Nope.
It's about our community as a whole. And so like, if I'm not willing to, do what I need to do in order to make sure the SBJ is able to, get messages out to people and do its job, then I would need to step out of the way, right? If you weren't committed to actually seeing the Canary project go through and you were just kind of hanging out, then you would need to get out of the way. It's the same. All of us have that, whatever role we're in, if we're getting in the way, you need to be able to step out of the way.
Right.
And the other thing is, the second piece of that, this isn't us bashing on Republicans. This isn't us bashing on Democrats.
No,
right?
It's not a party.
Exactly. Yes. And that's
it's a people in power issue.
Yes.
I don't care whether red, blue, purple, what side of the fence you're on, could care less.
Yeah.
It's about, you were elected to have a fiduciary responsibility to the people of your community to see them do better.
Yes.
And I think the current people in power have failed.
Yeah. And so like, you know what? Keep the same party affiliation, right? Just get someone in there who will actually be willing to do it. Or if you're someone who's in office and you listen to this, then, I'm the kind of person, like, I'm not the kind of guy to go throw rocks at people. You know what I mean? But let's just sit down and actually figure it out. Let's just
Agree, come up with a plan.
Yeah. Like you went for the plan. It's not too late.
No, it's never too late.
Yeah. It's just like, if you're out of shape, right?
Every path to greatness starts with the first step.
Yeah, exactly. You can start, if you're out of shape, you can start eating better.
Yep.
Today. You can't fix yesterday, but we can fix today, and we can fix right now.
Right.
And so we have an opportunity right now, right, with you guys coming in and investing, for example, with the data center coming in to invest, or with making our place a home where that's open for business, it's open for people to come move in here, and it's a safe, welcoming space.
And you need to promote that. The city needs, like, if they want to take money to make Salem better, start promoting that.
Yeah.
Come up with some type of branding, a PR campaign that does an outreach to reach big businesses to bring them here.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to come on their own. they have, 49 other states to choose from.
Yeah.
They're not going to just come here unless you do an outreach.
Yeah. Well, and they do have places knocking on their door. There are other cities that are reaching out to people.
Well,
So it's kind of like, we're someone who wants to go to prom, but we're not willing to go ask someone to go with us,
you got to think about it like the NFL draft.
Yeah.
Okay. We want to draft the best players. And what I mean by the best players is the best retail people, best anchor tenants.
Yeah.
How do you do that? You've got to give them a reason why they want to play on your team. Why do you want to play on the Salem team?
Yeah.
Why do you want to come here? And that's what we need to do. We need to outreach. We need to go pick the best of the best, find them, not wait for them to come to us.
Yeah. And it doesn't need to even be, when people hear that, a lot of times they'll hear tax incentives because that's what we see in the news. It doesn't necessarily need to be that. It could be, you know what? We have, it's a very safe town to live in. It's very clean. Hey, look, now we're doing better. We're economically viable. It's safe. You know what? We've been dealing with the homeless problem, and we're on the path to make it better. There's a lot of other things other than just giving free money away that will incentivize people to come here, or the fact that we have a very strong workforce. We even have like a high percentage of people who speak Spanish in this community. That's something that's kind of unique to us that a lot of places don't have.
So it's taking all those things you just said, and coming up with a campaign and getting that message out to the people you want to bring here.
Mm-hmm.
And currently, right now, they're not doing anything.
It's kind of insane to think about.
No, if you just think about that one thing, forget about all the other stuff, but just that one thing, that Salem doesn't have what I would call a pitch deck to the people they want to bring here. Why is anybody going to come?
Yeah.
You got to come up with something that sells Salem, for all the great things that it is that you've mentioned, all the potential that it has, the unseen potential that is yet to come, and the fact that you have a city that's willing to work. And I think one of the most important things, a city that's willing to work with the private sector to make things better.
But right now, is it willing to work with the private sector to make things better?
I can't answer that. I'll tell you after Wednesday.
Okay.
I sit down with them on Wednesday. So after Wednesday, I'll tell you. We'll do a follow up. I'll tell you.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear.
Tell you what I think. But right now, I don't have an answer to that.
Yeah.
I asked both the current mayor and the mayor elect why Salem, and I've said this a couple of times on our talk. Yeah. But I'll say it again. They didn't have an answer. They didn't have a viable answer. And they're the ones that are in power. That's the top shelf. The most accountable person is the mayor. And if a mayor can't tell you why Salem, why would anybody want to invest?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. It's kind of like, it's kind of like with dating. If you don't know why you're a great person to date, how is anybody else?
Yeah, exactly.
You can't expect them, we're not going to be a pick me girl.
Yeah.
The data center thing, thanks for, talking about that, because that's something that's very vital, and that's why I reached out to you to talk about.
Well, no, I appreciate it, because we've done data centers. We're tied in with a bunch of data centers. We're doing cold storage as well, which has its own little similarities, a little bit different. But yeah, the new technology is amazing, and people just have to understand and research on their own, or to your point, just ask the questions. Don't just say no, because you're shooting yourself from a great opportunity by just saying no without educating yourself, or at least asking the question that we talked about. So I think the data center for Salem would be tremendous. I support it 100%. I'd love to see it happen. Provided they do behind the meter, they do a closed loop system or something that doesn't take water, and that there weren't any environmental hazards. Those three things, check the boxes. I would say it's good to go.
Cool. Well, good to know. Well, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
All right.
And again, thank you guys for listening to the Salem Business Journal podcast. And I want to thank Compass Visuals and Collier Law for sponsoring the podcast. I appreciate you guys. Thank you.